In the past decade, the topic of sustainability trends has been a subject of great discussion. As we approach a new decade with our climate in crisis, it becomes more important than ever to keep up with and invest in the latest sustainability efforts, particularly in the world of business. We asked over 100 eco minded business leaders what they saw as the sustainability trends that will shape the next decade. Here are the top 10 trends they identified. From relying on renewable energy to eating smarter, we were excited to see what they were largely positive and optimistic. Number 1. Changes to energy production. One of the most talked about sustainability trends is reducing our dependence on fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are non renewable sources of energy and are the leading contributor to climate change. In the United States, they are to blame for more than 80% of greenhouse gas emissions and 98% of CO2 emissions alone. This is a promising reminder of the fact that collective efforts to invest in and improve our energy infrastructure are having a meaningful impact, and many of you felt hopeful that solar and wind energy will become far more commonplace in the next decade. Number 2, reduction in our energy consumption. Another one of the most promising sustainability trends in business is reducing energy consumption. Electric vehicles, LED lighting, smart homes, and LEED certified buildings were all mentioned frequently as critical areas of forward progress because they change how we consume energy and how much electricity and fuel we consume. Number 3, plant based eating. The next in our series of sustainable trends attempts to mitigate the environmental impact of our diets. Many responses to this question were optimistic about recent trends towards plant based eating and meat substitutes. It's no secret that eating meat has a big impact on the planet. Within the United States, agriculture and forestry together accounted for 9% of U.S. greenhouse gas emissions in 2017, not to mention the negative impact that agriculture has on soil and waterways. What does this have to do with meat? 26% of the Earth's land is actually used for livestock grazing, and one third of the planet's arable land is occupied by crop production used entirely as livestock feed. Number 4, regenerative agriculture. While many were focused on plant based eating trends, others felt that regenerative agriculture to support both plants and livestock production is a more important game changing wave of progress. Regenerative agriculture, defined as a system of farming principles and practices that increases biodiversity, enriches soils, improves watersheds, and enhances ecosystem services, is an antidote to our current depletion of topsoil. Regenerative agriculture aims to capture carbon in soil and above ground biomass, meaning that it can feed the planet while simultaneously reversing current global trends of atmospheric accumulation. Number 5, changes to our relationship with plastic. Many felt that the tides were finally turning on a relationship with single use plastic, in large part driven by the growing awareness of ocean plastic pollution and its impact on ocean life, acidification, and the food and water we consume. Number 6, changes to recycling and composting. While strides have been made with composting and recycling in the US and worldwide, both have major challenges. Between the China ban and our even more problematic recycling practices before the China ban, and composters struggling to accommodate and now banning materials like bioplastic that add no nutrients to their output, our system of sustainable waste management needs an overhaul. Many responses were optimistic about technologies that can help us improve both recycling and composting in the future. These types of innovations can help us significantly improve industrial composting and the output from industrial compost. Number 7, government regulation and policies. The single issue that garnered pessimism about progress was the role that governments play in pushing long term progress when it comes to sustainability. Number 8, consumer awareness and youth advocates. Even those who felt hopeless about politics voiced optimism of just how passionate the next generation of consumers and citizens is when it comes to climate change and marine plastic pollution. There is hope of the impact this will have on companies and governments. Number 9. The move to slow fashion. Fashion is considered one of the largest industry polluters in the world. Textile factories produce toxic wastewater. Synthetic fibers get released into the ocean through washing. Fast fashion has created a culture of disposable clothing where very little is recycled and most ends up in landfills. 92 million tons of solid waste dumped in landfills each year. As a result of these issues, we are seeing trends, particularly among smaller entrepreneurial brands, to implement systems of reduced waste at all stages of fashion production. Possibly the most prominent of these is the made to order model. Made to order means each garment is made when the customer orders it, so cut one at a time versus creating vast amounts of inventory that may never be sold. Number 10. A shift towards reusability. The biggest sustainability trend will be more and more people incorporating reusable products into their daily lives. The reusable bag market alone is projected to grow from $6 billion in 2019 to $10 billion in 2025. That's according to a recent market study report. Zero waste movement has been growing exponentially since its advent in 1980s and especially now in the 21st century where people are becoming more conscious shoppers. Millennials particularly are more sensitive to their carbon footprints, so they will go to businesses that have sustainable programs such as recycling, reusing, and creating compostable materials. More than anything, we were struck by the excitement in people's responses when asked about trends in sustainability. The underlying tone of optimism regarding even current environmental trends in business was refreshing to see, even in light of the stark data we all read and images we see. Additionally, it was interesting to see that there's so much in common across the responses. So many of the same topics, technologies, and brands were touched on by different people. If sustainability leaders, including businesses, politicians, advocates, nonprofits, teachers, parents, and individuals, could coordinate efforts around these 10 trends, we also have a lot of hope about the future.